ובשופר גדול כך ושא עיניך וראה ערבות העם הדח. ובשופר הגדול תקע תקיעה תרועה ושברים וברגליך וגערים ירעשו הדברים והקולות יעלו בלולים עד שרשי הנשמות יגלגלו הגלגולים לבנות את השממות. יתעוררו הנרדמים מיני האריות המשחקים בזרמים ושוגים בהזיות. יקיצו הישנים בתרדמת הגולה ויעורו הזונים בעלי האוזן הערלה. ויקומו ויעלו לארץ שהורים בקרבם הלכו וישימו קץ וקרץ לגלות שבה הודחו.
Blow the great shofar, Tikiya, Trua, Shvarim, blasts, wails, broken cries. Stamp your feet and the tombs will quake, and the mingling sounds will rise to the roots of the souls, and the wheel of destiny will turn to rebuild all that is desolate. Growing up as a secular suburban Jew, I had a polite connection with ritual, dabbling in dreidels, matzah, gefilte fish. Twice yearly, we endured the forced pilgrimage to our local Reform temple, where I would hear the organist and choir accompany the cantor in a seemingly endless annual show with a large supporting cast. On Rosh Hashanah, we know it was close to liberation when we would hear the cantor or some other big-lunged designate attempt to emit a few blasts on the shofar. Like the factory whistle, the sound turned our hearts and minds to something more substantial than the religious service we were suffering through, to the tables of cakes, fruits, and confections that awaited. Off with the yarmulkes, bring on the Boilermakers of Pinafores and Coca-Cola. In later teen years, a cynical anticipation emerged. Would he or wouldn't he? A few well-intentioned splats, blats, or other ill-sounding emissions from the shofar would instantly bring a smile to the face. Perhaps the human element is in conflict with the divine tribunal. Years later, as a jazz saxophonist doubling as a reluctant congregant at a traditional urban synagogue, struggling to stay on its feet after 100 years, I was pressed into service to try my hand at the shofar. The Baal Tokeya had passed on, and there was no one left who could get a sound out of the holy horn. This shouldn't be so hard, I thought. After all, I'm a wind player. Keep the air moving, relax, visualize. A few days before Rosh Hashanah, I gave it a try. Tekiya, nothing. Tekiya, splat. I consulted with the rabbi, who said that I might have luck with another shofar, and showed me a drawer containing several others. I had better luck, but was still not able to consistently produce a steady tone. Then I saw one wrapped up underneath some other articles, and I held it up. Don't bother, he said. No one can get a sound out of that one. I held it to my lips and blew. Tekiya! A huge sound filled the room. Shvarim! The blast bounced off the walls and danced along the rafters. I ran up the stairs to try out my new axe in the huge main sanctuary upstairs. Trua! The shorter tones rang out in counterpoint to their still reverberating predecessors. I was psyched and I was ready. Rosh Hashanah came and went both days, and the notices were in. The new Baal Tokeya was a hit. It was the best I ever heard. Strong enough to set the walls a-tumbling. It felt great to be a Jewish musician playing the original instrument. But was there more to it than that? After a few years, I found myself being more and more drawn to the synagogue and feeling woefully inadequate due to my almost complete dearth of Jewish knowledge. I started a casual study of the classic Jewish texts. It wasn't long before study became a regular part of my first weekly, then daily schedule. I started to learn Hebrew. study the meaning of the ancient verses that we chanted in the synagogue every Saturday morning. I became a father a few times over, and it was time to move on. My wife and I decided we would raise our children within a Jewish community and provide them with the education to gain the literacy that was required to navigate within. My new rabbi, upon hearing of my predisposition to horn blowing, asked if I was a Baal Tokea, a shofar blower. Yes, I proudly responded. Would you like to blow shofar for our community? He asked. Sure, I replied. Have you studied the laws and customs of the shofar? He asked. No, not really, not ever. Well, that would be the prerequisite before taking on the role in this new synagogue. Laws, customs, why can't you just open up and blow? First things first. Jewish tradition teaches that it is a mitzvah, a divine commandment, to hear the sound of the shofar in Rosh Hashanah. The shofar is mentioned in several other contexts elsewhere in the Bible, but it is with the Rosh Hashanah ritual that most people are familiar with. The command in the book of Leviticus mentions the Zichron Truah, remembrance of the shofar, and in the book of Numbers it says concerning the holiday, it shall be a day of sounding the shofar. But why the shofar? The sound of the shofar emanating from the heavens was heard in Mount Sinai. It was blown to mark the end of the Jubilee year after seven-year agricultural cycles, and was blown in the orchestra at the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Tradition teaches us that the Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac by his father Abraham, took place on Rosh Hashanah, and the ram's horn is symbolic of the ram Abraham sacrificed instead of his son. According to the tradition, the shofar must not be made from the horn of a cow, as that would make a connection with the golden calf, a major spiritual challenge for the Jewish people, the negative energy of which is still in the world. The mystical tradition teaches that there is a parallel shofar in the heavens that is activated by the shofar on earth. Says the Zohar, Tashma, come in here. When the supernal shofar, in which all universal lights are included, departs and does not illumine its children, then judgment is awakened and the thrones are set up for a court. And this shofar is called Isaac's ram. That is the power of Yitzhak, the praise of the fathers. When that great shofar departs and does not suckle its children, then Isaac is strengthened and prepares himself for judgment in the world. When that shofar is awakened and when people repent of their sins, they should draw the sound of the shofar from below, and that sound ascends. And there awakens another supernal shofar, so that rachamim, that mercy is awakened and judgment departs. We must perform a physical act with the shofar in order to awaken the other shofar and produce those sounds with that shofar below that will produce all those sounds from above which are included in that supernal shofar, so that it be awakened to go out. And with those sounds from below, Israel is given strength above. And therefore we must blow the shofar at its proper time on this day and with the sounds in their proper series, intending by this to arouse the other shofar above, which contains all the sounds. That's quite a mouthful. The Zohar mentions 3 conditions that are necessary for arousal: the proper time, the proper series of blasts, and the proper condition. The time was the easy part, during the day. The series of blasts required was another story. Due to some Talmudic confusion over the order and actual performance of the notes, the 9 biblically mandated blasts would now be 100. Ouch. The condition: one blowing the shofar must have the proper mindfulness, the intention, the kavanah. According to the tradition, one must have in mind that he is blowing for everyone present, and that every sound is for the singular purpose of directing the congregation's spiritual energy upwards towards the heavens. A lapse in concentration could cause a disconnect between the lower and upper worlds. I told my rabbi, no thanks, I'm not up for this. He replied that my response was the one he was looking for, that an eagerness would have indicated I was indeed the wrong person for the job. I would have to see it through. The morning of the Day of Judgment came. I went to the synagogue early and practiced a few blasts. Nice, smooth. The youth director asked me to blow for the children's service. 30 blasts, feeling fine. Someone asked me to go around the corner and blow shofar for someone who was too ill to come to the synagogue. 30 blasts later, I was back, still plenty of time until the main congregation reached the shofar service. I put on my white kittel, the ceremonial frock symbolizing purity, and I stepped up to the bima. The cantor called out, "Tekiah!" I put the shofar to my lips. Nothing. I tried again. Garnished. Once more, zilch. Silence filled the room. Take a minute, I was told. A stand-in shofar blower ascended, and I went out to the garage and cried like I never had. Rabbi Eliezer said, from the day in which the temple was destroyed, the gates of prayer have been closed. As it says, yea, when I cry and call for help, he shutteth out my prayer. But though the gates of prayer are closed, the gates of weeping are not